In my last episode, I did a bunch of setup for a sand quarry. I did a whole bunch of bombing and a whole lot of water removal, and I got some trenches dug. They're 1,000 blocks long, about 13 blocks wide. They run the entire length of this really large desert. And then in between episodes, I finished up this clearing right here, which is large enough for us to place the actual sand quarry itself. So all that's left to do is to build the thing, and this thing is gigantic. It's easily the biggest flying machine I've ever built, and it's just a really, really big build. It's probably going to take a while, so let's get started. Whew, this was a mammoth endeavor. So this side, as I mentioned in my last episode, took 8 hours to build, just this one side. The other side took me 6 hours to build. So that side was a little bit easier. And then the middle took another 8 hours to build. And the middle was actually the worst part because it was very, very repetitive. And some of these blocks were harder to place than others. Obviously, the cobblestone was really easy. The pistons were actually really easy, and the terracotta, but the trapdoors were really hard to build to place. And then the observers, I had to place them. I basically walked in this rail, and either I'd walk too fast and I'd skip them, or I'd walk too slow and I'd end up double placing them. And I ended up actually deciding that the double placing was the fastest. And so you can see these are haste beacons right now. We originally, Asta came by with a great idea of using speed beacons, and then we used fake sneak with Tweakaroo, and that allows us to not fall off the edge, and then we can actually walk while we are placing the blocks instead of crouching, and that makes that faster already. That part I knew, but then Asta's like, if you put speed beacons up, then you can walk even faster. And that actually made the cobblestone, the pistons, and the terracotta go by pretty quickly, but then the trapdoors and the observers were definitely a pain to build. So yeah, this is definitely the biggest build I've ever made in Minecraft. The Nether World Eater, I believe, took me 12 hours to build, and this one took me 22 hours total to build over the course of many, many days. And that's not including all the setup, and we're also not done yet. There's still a lot more that needs to happen before I can even fire this machine off. So first of all, anything above the Y level of this machine has to go. So those hills over there, we got to cap the tops of those right off of there. I think Asta's already working. Yep, looks like he's already working on that right now. So that's got to happen. And then we've got these water trails down here that bring the items back to the storage. So those actually need to be extended. So it's just this thing right here. It should be a fairly easy build to just build this repetitively on and on and on. and I'll probably only do it for about 500 or so blocks, and then we'll just extend that as we go. The same thing with removing the sand. We'll just probably do that in 500 block steps. We'll remove all the sand for 500 blocks, and then we'll run it for 500 blocks, and then we'll come back and do the rest of it, because it's just a lot of work to do all at once. And then I don't even remember what else we needed to do. Okay, so first of all, I need to test it. I need to take the world download, bring it into a single player world, and make sure that everything's working. Actually, before that, I need to actually do the schematic verification. I know there's already some things missing, and so I'm going to have to fix those. And yeah, oh yeah, storage. That's the other thing we got to do. We got to set up storage. Now, in TT's original design, he talked about using hoppers for chunk loading. Well, that worked in 1.12. It does not work in 1.16. And I don't want to set up chunk loaders every 3 chunks. So instead, we're probably going to end up setting the actual storage up so that there's always a storage within view distance. So kind of complicated, but basically we'll put a shulker box loader every 500 chunks or something like that. So that's another thing we're going to have to do every 500 chunks is remove all the sand, set up the water, and then set up a chunk loader. So yeah, that's a lot that still needs to be done before we can even fire this thing off. So I guess we'll get to work probably removing the sand first, and then set up the water, set up the chunk loader, and then we'll do the schematic verification and test this thing out. Man, this has been a lot of work, and there's still so much left to go. We're starting to get close here. I'm hoping I can get this launched off today. This is exciting. So Asta and Carm actually did all the digging out this way, so we're good on this one. What is this hill here? Did they miss one? I might have to grab these real quick. But I think other than that, they got most of the stuff out for a few hundred blocks, so that should do us really well. And then over here on this side, on both sides, I've got the water channel going. So I haven't set up the storage yet. I actually, because the storage isn't part of the schematic and it's going to be down in this area, I don't want to include that just yet. So instead, I'm going to do the schematic verification first, and then I'll test and see if it works, and I can actually set up the storage in the single player test world, and then we can test it out and make sure that that's working, and then I'll come back and set up the storage. And then that should be the last thing that we need to do. So let me go ahead and schematic placements and schematic verifier. Give it a good start. And there's a lot that's going to be wrong. So first of all, I think it has to load all the chunks. Yeah, so we need to fly around, make sure all the chunks are loaded. All right, so you can see while I was placing all this terracotta and these trapdoors, I placed them in the easiest way possible. So those aren't going to be correct, and I expected as much. But we can go ahead and look through. So white stained glass for sea lanterns that I expect, cobblestone instead of stone. Doesn't really worry me. I might want to fix this packed ice just to make sure that the items, I tried using cobblestone, but those items might not move across that in the water. And then here's all the glazed terracotta. Not worried about the state of the glazed terracotta or any of this stuff. We've got an extra glazed terracotta, some extra water. I don't think I'm worried about. There we go. Extra packed ice. Missing blocks, stone, sandstone, sand, glass. Yeah, none of this worries me. I'm worried about a missing redstone block, though. And that's it. That's a pretty good thing. So let's see where we're missing items. And we'll go through, and looks like that's the stone and the cobblestone, or the packed ice down there. What do we got up here that we're missing? We got an extra. Oh, that's strange. Oh, we're missing a terracotta. That's not even supposed to be there. So we can ignore that one. think actually we're looking pretty good here. I still want to find that redstone block, but yeah, this is supposed to be packed ice. So we can probably fix that real quick. I don't know if I have packed ice in my inventory. I'll have to fly back and grab it. And then I'll have to especially, I want to, I think the only thing I'm really worried about, let's go see what this blue stuff is over here. What is that? What's that supposed to be? Oh, there's 2 redstone blocks. Oh, these are redstone blocks that I placed. It's actually all I had in my inventory while I was waiting for the flying machine to go back and forth. So I'm not even worried about that. We got sand that's missing over there. I think we're ready to go. Let me fix the pack ice, and then I'm going to download the world download. And I can't imagine that this is going to go successfully on the first try, but let's try it out and find out. All right, so I'm in the world download. I'm in creative. This is not the actual world. We're just testing it out first. With something on this kind of scale, I would never run it in vanilla without testing it out first. So let's give it a shot and see what happens. See if we have total failure or what. It should go down there. Oh, yeah, looks like we got some good stuff happening here. We got some flying machine. Oh, just some visual updates that didn't happen. Did this first? Nope, it went off too. Okay. Lots of weird visual updates. But you can kind of see, we can kind of get a look of how it's running. You can see how each one pushes the next one. And it also should be like grabbing the blocks out from underneath it or something like that. I'm not sure exactly how it works. I don't remember. So we can see here, here's blocks that it's got to move out of the way in order for it to push. And it should be able to do that. It might just push them. That's another visual glitch. This is partially because I'm running, my computer is running the server and the client's part. So it's going to be a little bit backed up here. Yep, you can see, okay, it's a sticky piston right there that'll pull the block up just like a split second before the next one comes. And so if these were sand, the next time it gets pushed, it's going to get pushed onto the, actually right away, it's going to get pushed right onto the trapdoor. There we go. And we got a sand right on the trapdoor. So everything seems to be working here. Let's make sure all the flying machines are working all the way down. And I'm probably going to have to test this for a couple runs because, you know, like there might be some problems that we won't see right away. Man, there is a lot of visual tearing going on here. Oh, man. So far, so good, though. I am really impressed with how this is going. Now, over here, we got this flying machine. It goes up to there, and then it comes back down. And then when it activates, it should start sending up these mine carts. There we go. That's what we want to see. Looks like everything's working there. Man, look at this machine run. It is just like a well-oiled machine. And you see how everything's getting pushed forward as it's going. And then all the mine carts should end up running across like this. Yep. And they have infinite momentum because they're stacked on top of each other. And we should get mine carts in all of the slots. We should see, love to see this. Look at that nice little pattern of the mine carts going on there. All right. And then by the time you see how the flying machines are still going and the mine carts are going. And not long after the flying machine dock, the mine carts should actually hit the station. So mine carts are still back here. And it should pick up any sand. There was only a few sand on the first run, but it'll get more and more the more times we run it. Here we got quite a bit more sand. That's pretty decent. And hopefully none of these mine carts got stopped. When I was testing it, they were running into rabbits, and that was stopping the mine carts. So that's something we want to make sure that we avoid too. I don't think there's any rabbits in the area right now. And once it starts running, we shouldn't have any more rabbit problems. But when you initially set it up, you do have to make sure that there are no rabbits in the area. They will cause problems. So there we go. Here come the mine carts. And they are a little bit faster than the flying machine, but the flying machine should dock first. We wouldn't want these. These would actually hit the flying machines if the timing wasn't quite right. So there we go. It's picking up all the items. And here now the flying machines are about to dock. The mine carts aren't long behind. I actually like it to be a little bit closer, but I'm not going to worry about it too much. And then they should land somewhere down there. There we go. They land on there. And then these mine carts should pick the items up, and we should get some items being spit into the water. That one might not have picked any. Oh, yeah, that one just didn't pick any up. We got sand coming here, sand coming here. Oh man, this is looking great so far. And here's our shulker box loader, and it's collecting all the items for us. Items are getting stuck on this edge, so that's not good. That's something I need to fix. Yeah, that's not good at all. Let's just turn that off for now. I needed a loop, but I might need to loop it the other way, because, yeah, they come in so fast that it might not be able to pick them all up at once. So I'm not sure what I can do here. Maybe if we swap this out for honey. So we'll figure that out in a second. Let's see if it's actually started going again. It should. Did it already? Oh, yeah, it's already started going again. Wow. That's really awesome. All right, and then once again, this flying machine should be about to dock right now. And then hopefully it'll send off the mine carts normally. Here come the mine carts. Looks like everything's still working. It's a really good sign. And everything's about to dock over here on the other side. Everything's looking good. Our mine carts are not far behind. Getting sand over here. So that's all looking, man, I'm really impressed that this is working on the first try. It's super laggy though. Like, I am having some frame rate issues. But it should be a little bit better when the server is maintaining all of this stuff and I just need to deal with the visuals on my side, running it both on my computer locally. Even though it's an impressive computer and I just upgraded it, it's having some trouble. And here's the part that I had issues with testing. Everything worked the first time through, but when you tried to send off the mine carts a second time, they weren't actually going up with this machine here. So let's see if we have that issue now. I don't think I will. Yeah, looks like we're good. And let's make sure we've got all the mine carts as well, that none of them got stopped or anything like that. Yeah, I think everything's going just a-okay. So I'm going to let this run for a little while just to make sure. We might have some issues that happen after a short while of running it, but everything's looking really good so far. I think we're almost ready to launch this in vanilla, and I'm super excited. All right, it's been running for about an hour and a half, and all of the flying machines are still running, and all of the mine carts are going except for one. We're missing one right here. It stopped somewhere in the middle back there. I assume a rabbit or a wandering trader or something like that. So I'm probably going to have to check to stop the machine and check the mine carts every now and again just to make sure that something didn't stop them. But other than that, it looks like we're running really well here. Flying machines not acting properly, not visually loading properly, notwithstanding. Everything looks fine. And you can see that it just kind of pushes the world up a little bit. And that's pretty cool. Let's see it push all this up. Look at that. That's really neat how that works. So it's basically just going to take all the terrain and push it up like 24 blocks, basically. So that should be fun. So all I got to do is I got to fix that loader. And I want to run another test, and then we can do the final steps, and then finally launch this thing in vanilla. So the honey blocks did actually fix the sorter here. So it is going in a loop, so it gives it extra time to pick up all the items. And it is actually pretty consistently picking up these items on the second go through. Most of them aren't coming through a second time. This is way more than we'd expect to see at any given run, but it should be able to keep up just fine. This is my 6X loader that I set up actually in my last episode. So that should be all working. Now there is one more thing that I want to test here, and that is to make sure that this whole thing can run while it's not all loaded. So right now I've got my view distance on 20, which is what we have on our server. So I can see 320 blocks, and you can see I can't see that other end. I should be able to start the farm just fine because it's only going to push this end, and then the flying machines are going to fly across, and I just have to keep the flying machines flying across while it's running. I don't have to worry about either two sides. So what I should be able to do is start the farm. Let's actually just do that now. Let's go ahead and start the farm, and then I can fly over, once I've done that, to my AFK point, which is about 300 blocks because I can see 320. So I wanted to do a little bit less. So it would be 300 blocks from that edge over there so that we've got the entire thing loaded so that while I'm in my AFK point, everything is loaded. All right, so now I'm at my AFK point. I can go into free camera, which is a tweakaroo setting. It allows me to move around my camera like I'm in spectator mode, but I'm actually still standing back there. So that'll keep everything loaded, and we can actually go out to the edge and we can see what's loaded. And it should be everything still loaded just fine. So we can see it's loaded all the way out to here. And everything should be running here. Yep, everything's running here. So this is what we want to see. We want to see everything's going just fine. No issues per se. And then the other thing I want to check is, so I made it out there to the AFK point without breaking the machine. That's important because part of the machine wasn't loaded while I was getting out to the AFK point. Now that I'm at the AFK point, the whole thing is loaded and I should be able to go until it's about 300 blocks past that AFK point, and then I'll have to set up another AFK point. Now the other thing I need to check and make sure that I can do is turn it off. So I'm pretty sure the only time I can turn it off is when these flying machines are on the way back over to that side. So if they get over to here, then I can't fly over and turn it off. And if I were to go turn it off right now, these flying machines would fly out of the area that I have loaded, and that's bad. I don't want that. So I need to wait. I can use free camera to go and see where it is at any given point in time. And so when it's on the way back and it makes it past basically the halfway point, then I can fly over and I can go turn it off. So I'm going to wait until we get to that point and then check and make sure that that's true. All right, so we're keeping all these machines loaded as we're flying across it, and that seems to be good. And we should be able to fly over here. We'll need a redstone block. And I'm pretty sure as long as we reach there before it actually starts moving again, we should be able to turn it off. Let's go over there and find out. So if all that works properly, then we're mostly good, but I am super worried about those mine carts. So it should be, where is it? It's this one right here. So I'll place it right there. As long as there's no block in front of it, we're okay to power it right there. And that will stop the actual machine. And hopefully in the process, we haven't unloaded any of these flying machines. If we unload these flying machines, they're actually going to be pretty easy to fix. So I'm not too worried about that one. But if somehow these get unloaded while they're in the middle of moving, oh, God help me. All right, so everything seems to be working properly. We know that we can turn the machine on and off. We just have to be careful about when and how we turn it off, which is fine. And we do know that we need to watch those mine carts. So there's just a few more things we have to do before we launch it off. First of all, we got to set up these loaders here, which shouldn't take too long at all. And then the one last thing I want to do is we actually need to scan this area ahead of us for immovable blocks. So chests and furnaces inside of villages. I know that village over there, that actually had glazed terracotta in it. And we're using pistons to pull the blocks up. Pistons won't pull glazed terracotta up. So that will actually break the machine. So we've got to get those out of there. Any spawners that are down in the world, just lower than this, above this machine, are the only ones that we need to worry about. So there shouldn't be too many of those. Any obsidian, anything like that. We just need to make sure, like I said, this glazed terracotta here, we've got to get that all out of the area. I'm just going to scan the initial area because we haven't set up the machine to go much further than that anyways. And I just have to make sure that there's no objects that it's going to run into and they'll cause problems. So that's pretty important. So I made a bit of a boo-boo. My computer crashed while I was clearing out all the immovable blocks, mostly in the village. And when my computer came back up, I forgot to restart OBS. And so I thought I was recording all the clips of launching off the flying machine. And I went to go edit and I have none of those clips. So I got nothing. And it's not like I can really remake those clips or anything like those were one-shot takes. and there's nothing there. So I'll save you the suspense. The launch actually went really, really well. And we've already seen how it works in Creative anyways, so why don't I just cut right to a time lapse and we'll just see the thing running. Some more fun news. My server crashed while I was running this machine. Actually, my entire hosting provider crashed. The entire site is down right now and has been down for the last couple hours. So I'm on a world download right now because I can't even get onto my server to see what the damage is. I assume catastrophic because the server crashing while this thing is running almost certainly is very, very bad news for the sand query. So that was actually the second time I had to reset. I took a world download, a backup of the world, when I first started this machine. And the first time it crashed, not the machine itself crashed because I left some blocks over on the left side. And that one was entirely on me. And there was a lot of things that I had to remember, and I forgot that I needed to make sure that all the blocks were clear of that side. There were a few random blocks that didn't get blown up, and I didn't remove them. And then later it crashed again because there was a block on the other side, and a single block stopped a flying machine and started causing a cascading failure. And so I've removed all those blocks and I restarted again, and this time the host crashed on me. So fates have been against me. I probably will restart again. Nobody's been on the server in the last 24 hours, out of courtesy largely. So we can still reset, but there's going to be a point at which that's not going to be possible anymore. And at some point, if it keeps crashing or I keep having issues like this, I may have to cut my losses, which is a very sad thing. I've already lost 24 hours basically to the whole thing crashing repeatedly. So was this all worth it? Even before I had all these crashes, I was going to say an almost categorical no. I mean, if you compare it to sand duping, even if you're a purist and you don't like sand duping, and I'm not a purist, but I mean, I would put in a little extra effort in order to avoid duping. I certainly would. But this is on the other extreme of that kind of thing. This is so much more extra work. And if you compare it to the possibility that Mojang should, and hopefully will at some point in the future, give us some sort of renewable sand, I mean, the players would be rightfully outraged if Mojang came to us and said, we've given you renewable sand, but it requires a machine that takes about 50 to 60 hours of setup and could crash if you just misplace a few blocks or if your server crashes while it's running. I mean, that's not really a reasonable way to give us renewable sand. I assume that they'd give us something that's much easier than that. Now, was it worth it for the content? I guess I'll let you decide. I think my last video was very popular. Hopefully this one will be fairly popular as well. But at the same time, I've spent a lot of time on this, and this episode is already a couple days late. So, arguably, maybe, but probably not. Really, there are other ways that I could make better content without putting quite as much work into it. Now, the only place where I think this was worth it is that this is a very cool machine. And building it and seeing it work, that was a really cool experience. And that was probably the only thing that was worth it. But there are other queries out there. And, like if you want to do a Mesa query or something like that, you don't have to do that. Like you can if you want to. And it's cool if you do, but you don't have to. You're not required by the game to have a whole bunch of terracotta. But sand, that's part of the game. That's like so built into the game. And we're on a server and we're both, everybody here is tired of digging out sand. And this is our alternative. So please, Mojang, I mean, this is ultimately, this is an argument for why there should be renewable sand. If we have to go to these links with a volatile machine just to not have to dig anymore, and we're still destroying a desert, like, why isn't there renewable sand yet? Why wasn't that one of the first features that they announced for 1.17? I hope they're holding back on us. They've already decided they're going to do that in 1.17, and they want to hold that for last to surprise us. Because if 1.17 doesn't have renewable sand in it, I think that's inexcusable. Obviously, I will continue to play Minecraft. I love Minecraft. But give us renewable sand. Jeez, look at this thing. I mean, it's beautiful. It's a beautiful machine. Like I said, it's so awesome that I built this. But this should not be what's necessary. But I digress. At least we were able to see this thing running for a few hours, get a nice time lapse out of it. And hopefully I will reset this. We'll try to keep it running as long as I can. If it does eventually crash, which another thing I forgot to mention, by the way, this thing is not lightning proof. So if it gets struck by lightning, then it'll crash then too. And we had already decided that the plan for what we were going to do about that was absolutely nothing. So if it gets struck by lightning, it's over, kaput. That's all I'm going to do about it. And if this crashes again, I think I'm probably done. And so far, like, I think we've gotten less sand out of this machine than we actually got from just digging up the areas around it and clearing the area for the machine itself. So hopefully we can keep it running a little bit longer than that, but we'll see what happens. And when it does crash, I assume that's what's going to happen at some point. It's going to crash one way or another, and the machine stops working. I probably won't fix it again. We'll use up whatever sand we have available to us at that time, and then we will look at other non-vanilla alternatives. Our head contender is most likely we will use carpet mod with husks dropping sand and husks spawning in temples. And that will probably be the way that we get sand moving forward, unless Mojang surprises us with sand renewable in 1.17, which I'm not holding my breath, but they really should. Oh, I forgot to mention in all this madness that I sent Astazora on a treasure hunt in my last episode, and Astazora completed that treasure hunt, and it was a lot of fun. It was a really cool video. He made a video of it. You should definitely go check it out, especially if you're interested in a treasure hunt. It's a very fun video. So I will put a link up in the corner right now and down in the description as well. You should definitely go check that out. So that's all I have for this episode. I want to thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I hope to see you again real soon. Bye now.